Someone recently called me with a shaila the following: sautéed onions in a fleshike pot with rice. I'm imagining the onions were sautéed before the rice was put in. And after a few minutes, after the onions were already sautéed, on gishmak and smelling the whole house, he took a milchike spoon, not a ben yoimai, and he mixed the rice and the onions with this milchike spoon. So let's analyze this shaila from kama angles. And it brings in many dinim. Number one, what would be the din if there would not be any onions here? What if it would be a case of simple rice, let's say with water, and cooking it in a fleshike pot, and you stuck in a spoon, a milchike spoon? So this would be a classical case of kaidas shel basar shehutchu b'yorech eleves. If you washed milchike and fleshike dishes together at the same time, in the same water, or you stuck in a fleshike spoon or a milchike spoon into a milchike pot with parav inside, that's called kaidas shel basar shehutchu b'yorech eleves. You wash them together. So it's a big machlokes mechaber and Ramah. The mechaber says it's always mutter because of nat bar nat, and the Ramah asers even b'diavad, provided they were both b'nei yoimon. You could reference the shiurim that you learned when you were in yeshiva to find out all the biurim. But so the bottom line is, in this case, the Ramah says clearly that only if they're both b'nei yoimon is there a problem. In this case, where the milchike spoon was an eina ben yoimai, so kishal atzmai, if this would have been the shaila alone, there would be no shaila at all. It would be kaidas shabasa shehutchu b'yorech eleves at worst. When one of them is an eina ben yoimai, so it's mutter b'diavad. Here it could even be better because lav dafke there was water, it was just dry rice, which brings to a whole other shaila. Only a few pieces of rice anyways would become maybe milchiks or fleshiks, etc. But here, either way it was an eina ben yoimai. The shaila becomes that the onions were sautéed. So since the onions were sautéed, so the onions became really fleshik, which means even if the fleshik pot was an eina ben yoimai, the spoon was an eina ben yoimai, but even if the fleshike pot was an eina ben yoimai, we know the halacha in Siman Tzadik Vav that a davar chorif is mashve l'shvach, mechal yolei or mashve l'shvach. It sweetens the tam that was in the fleshike keli, and that tam that was in the fleshike keli goes into the onion and becomes mamish like a ben yoimai. So those onions are really fleshik. And there's no nat bar nat by davar chorif either. It's not just fleshik l'shvach, it's also like tam rishon. So it takes away the whole idea of kaidas shel basar shehutchu b'yorech eleves. So now here is the shaila. You have real fleshik onions that you put a milchike eina ben yoimai spoon and you mix those onions with the milchike eina ben yoimai spoon. So it's pretty clear that because the onions became really fleshik and there's no nat bar nat by onions, and let's assume there was some liquid in the pot, let's assume for a second, so the spoon that was stuck in certainly becomes treif now, because it got tam directly from basar in the onions, which became tam rishon, and went into the spoon, even though the spoon is an eina ben yoimai, lechatchila, now you can't use the spoon, not for milchik and not for fleshik, providing that there was a little bit of liquid, otherwise there's a heter of einis or bulua, hoilich mechaticha lechaticha b'lo reitev, which we'll discuss when another shaila probably will come up. But here, the shaila becomes, how about the onions themselves? Did they become treif? How about the rice? Did it become treif? How about the pot? Did it become treif? The spoon is for sure osur. What about the other way around? So many poskim say that specifically onions are only chorif when they're raw. But if they're processed, which means cooked, baked, or roasted or sautéed, they lose their charifus, that takes away the charifus. So although the onions became really fleshik because they were sautéed when they were raw, so it got tam from the fleshik pot, but once they were already sautéed, it cannot take a ben yoimai tam out of the spoon, which was an eina ben yoimai, and turn that tam into a shvach, because the onions are already pog charifus, so they're not chorif anymore. So therefore, it's mamish, a classical case of sticking an eina ben yoimai spoon into flesh mamish. What's it then if you stick an eina ben yoimai spoon into flesh mamish? The flesh is mutter b'diavad, the keli is mutter b'diavad, everything is mutter b'diavad. So the same thing would be here. Because the onions weren't charif anymore, and I stuck a milchike eina ben yoimai spoon into them, so therefore, the tam that went in is nice and tam lefgam, so the onions are therefore kosher b'diavad, the rice is kosher b'diavad, and the keli is also kosher b'diavad. So the only thing you might have to kasher would be the spoon. And that would be other variables if you're looking for a reason or a heter not to have to kasher the spoon, but otherwise the chatchila certainly to kasher the spoon.